Вітаю вас, мене звати Андрій Suslenko, ви дивитесь 5 канал, і це програма «Час інтерв'ю». Сьогодні у нас у гостях Druckman, голова Міжнародного республіканського інституту в Україні. Welcome to our show, Michael. Thank you for bringing us here to your office, to the International Republic Institute in Ukraine.
No, thank you.
We have to explain our viewers what do international organizations actually do in Ukraine. That's why we do this show. And recently we talked to the UN, we want to talk to OSCE, and now we're here with the International Public Institute, and we would love our viewers to understand more of what you're doing here. Something about you, especially regular people. So could you try to explain what is the mission of IRI in Ukraine and basically in the whole world, and what is the vision as well of your organization?
Sure, I'd be happy to. IRI was founded actually back in 1984, together with the National Democratic Institute. So together with the National Democratic Institute, IRI implement political party support programs around the world, looking to improve and support democracy. We work with civil society organizations, political parties. We support free and fair elections. And in particular, IRI has a focus also on using survey research to support these projects. So while IRI was founded in 1984, its first programs didn't begin in Ukraine until almost 10 years later. 1993, 1994, we opened our first office together with other partners who were invited by the Ukrainian government to come to Ukraine. The goal was really to support Ukraine's new and emerging political parties post-independence.
So basically you work on democracy. More prosperous in the world, like more effective.
Well, that is to help provide the tools for local political parties, individuals to achieve their democratic goals. So to help political parties be more competitive, to appeal to larger groups of citizens to have ideas and to build platforms that they compete on, have more ideological political parties rather than just individuals and projects, which in Ukraine has been a big challenge, especially over the last 20 years. But also working with citizens to help citizens become more engaged. How can they be more engaged? How can they put pressure on their government? How can they better work with their local city councils or mayors? How can they be involved in daily civic life? So these different aspects of helping to promote and support democracy and democratic development.
And in 1993, Ukrainian government invited you over?
Yeah, we were invited, USAID came to Ukraine at the invitation of the government to provide a variety of different development programs. And at that time, one of the areas that they were looking to support was democracy, democratic development, introducing Ukraine to a multi-party political system. And USAID, which at the time was one of our largest funders and is still one of our key donors, looked for organizations that could come in to fulfill those different aspects. So IRI competed and won a tender to come to Ukraine to support political party development. We have other partner organizations that are often, you see their names listed alongside IRI. I mentioned NDI. There's also the International Foundation for Electoral Systems, which is IFES, rules and procedures and processes for holding democratic elections. So we work together with these different organizations and have for the past over 20 years in Ukraine to fulfill different aspects of Ukraine's democratic development.
And for now, today, how many obstacles do you face in your work that you perceive?
I think in Ukraine right now, I've been here for almost 6 years now. I came to Ukraine in August of 2010, which is a very different Ukraine, a very different, let's say, operating environment for IRI and other democracy promotion partners. Today, the biggest obstacle is really just a lack of time. There's so much enthusiasm. There's an overwhelming desire for participation from different actors, groups in Ukraine. We're really stretched in terms of our capacity and our capabilities to provide the assistance for all of the programs that we offer. So again, I think many people don't understand, especially not in Ukraine, how large this country is. And if there's a request for a training in a place like Bashtanka in Mykolaiv Oblast or in Uzhgorod, that it's not just very easy to go there the next day. So it's responding to cities and communities that want to participate in these programs that are logistically very challenging. I think the logistical challenges in this country they remain, and they haven't been addressed yet. We've done a lot of work with the city of Mariupol as well as Lviv. We've actually partnered those city councils together for a number of joint projects. But to get from Mariupol to Lviv, you need 2 trains and almost over 36 hours of travel to go across the country. So that's a big challenge. It's a big challenge when you're trying to promote closer coordination and cooperation between political party branches in eastern and western Ukraine, when you're trying to show best practices. Operationally, one of the biggest challenges we have in responding to what we think is a great challenge, which is just extremely high demand for our projects and work.
You say these are like key challenges. Do you have any political challenges, like people who actually are your mission and vision in Ukraine?
At the moment, no. We've been, I think one of the things that IRI has tried to do over the many years is, while we haven't engaged with the public as much in the past, we've done quite a bit of work communicating constantly with the government, whichever government that is in Ukraine, with all the political parties that are represented, to explain what it is the work that IRI does, and that it's here in a nonpartisan way to provide support. We've done a lot of work with the Party of Regions. We did a lot of work with the Party of Regions in the past. Now we're doing work with supporting opposition bloc in other regions. Other parties that existed over 5 years ago, like Batkivshina, we've had a long relationship working with them. But we work with all political parties. Any political party that espouses trying to promote a democratic future of Ukraine, we provide support training for them. And by support, we mean trainings. We mean participating in our programs. IRI is not a donor organization, so we don't
give away money.
We don't give away funds. It's actually illegal to give funds to political parties. We don't do that with IRI. But IRI itself constantly is having to go out and speak to donors and say, this is a great opportunity in Ukraine. We need to support the Ukrainian people. We're seeing opportunities with new mayors, with new political parties, or with new civic activists, and we would like your support for this project. So IRI is an implementing organization. So we receive funds from USAID, the government of Canada, which in Ukraine is our largest funder right now. So that's a big difference.
For more than 20 years, you've been working here in implying projects. What were the key projects that you actually applied in Ukraine?
I think one of the key projects, and one that I'm very proud of, that our team developed a little over 5 years ago, was working with local elected officials in different cities, but connecting those cities to each other. So it was an east-west project. So we would go to a city like Severodonetsk or Mariupol, or even Bakhchisarai, when we had our projects in Crimea. We would provide training for those elected officials, usually first-time officials. So they've just been elected. When you're elected as a city council member in Ukraine, you don't receive an official orientation of what it is, what are your rights and responsibilities, what are your duties, what are you allowed to do, what are you not allowed to do. So IRI provided this type of orientation program for new elected officials. But then what we did was then follow those trainings by taking the most active participants from eastern and southern Ukraine to visit cities in the west that had also participated in the training, to have more advanced trainings, but together, and to discuss the ways that they conduct their city business, what's different, what works, what doesn't work. One of the things that I think was very successful about this project was that when individuals from one city council saw something innovative or interesting being done, it wasn't that they couldn't do it back in their home community, because it's the same national legislation that governs all of these regulations. It was just a matter of learning, hey, how did you do that? What did you do to improve the transparency of your budget? How did you get citizens engaged on working with the local school system? And then going back home and implementing that. So being able to show, through direct contact, best practices, innovation in local governance, and at the same time build bridges between these communities, between places people plan for investment. How do they make their community more appealing for international investors to breathe new life into old industries? And they were able to go back and begin thinking about those ideas and how they can implement that in their community.
Nowadays, you work on a lot of projects as well, and I've been a part of one of your projects. Top projects, top priority project that you're working on right now.
Sure. In addition to working with local elected officials, we have a large project in many regions of the country working to improve the connection between local political party branches and local NGOs, local civil society organizations. In the past, as you and many of your viewers know, political parties would look at civil society as a group of young people to carry party flags or wear party t-shirts around election time, and then after the election, they would walk away. We've been trying to do a lot of work since 2009 to work at the local level with political party branches to show them the value of cooperating with civil society organizations to achieve their political goals and to meaningfully interact with civil society. So we have a number of trainings that we do in the regions, places like Kherson, Zaporizhzhia, Dnipropetrovsk, Rivne, Zhytomyr Oblast, but then also working with local civil society organizations on how to build back trust of engaging with political parties. Why is it beneficial to work with political parties, or to put pressure on them, especially if you're trying to achieve local goals, how to use political parties to achieve local legislation on city councils. And then we facilitate joint roundtable discussions between both groups. Then when we see that they've identified a topic or an area they want to address. In Chernigiv, in Nizhyn, many years ago, one of those issues was trying to reopen a 24-hour aptieka next to the maternity hospital that had been closed. And we worked with providing a local NGO that was a women's healthcare NGO to develop the tools and ideas of how to engage local political parties to then have a decision passed on the city council to allocate funds to reopen that 24-hour pharmacy. So ideas, whether it's waste management, local ecological issues, establishing housing associations, which right now the OSBB, this topic is now very timely, it's very relevant, but many communities don't understand how to establish these housing associations, and especially the local city councils. So working with these initiative groups, providing them with the tools to better engage and advocate for these associations and have them codified, have them established through city council decisions to deliver results for their citizens. Again, trying to do something between election cycles, governing, which is a critical part that's been missing in many aspects of Ukraine's democratic development.
Yeah, we've had a lot of revolutions, but we never governed actually our country. That's what a lot of foreign experts are saying when they come to Ukraine. You mentioned a lot of things that you are working on, a lot of topics, and that means you have to have knowledge, expertise. And I can only assume that your team has not only Americans in it. You probably work with some Ukrainians or, I don't know, Russians, or whoever local is in Ukrainians here. So they would fill you in on what is going on with the legislation and stuff.
That's been a real difference in IRI's approach in Ukraine. Many organizations that have come here to do different projects, and they bring American experts, Canadian experts, German experts, but the specificity of Ukraine and local legislation, oftentimes those lectures or those trainings, they're interesting, they're fun to watch. You can meet some international, expert for a day, but the practicality of implementing that information is usually very difficult or impossible. So IRI made a decision many years ago that we would focus our effort on working with the best Ukrainian trainers and experts. Those Ukrainians that have served in government, local government, worked in political parties, established and ran successful advocacy campaigns with local NGOs, practice experience, and have them convey messages through our trainings, have them be the experts that can provide real case studies.
It gives more credibility, of course.
Yeah, I think we see ourselves as, we try and identify what are the key areas that need to be worked on, what are the key problem areas in the regions, finding the local partners, and then finding those experts to bring in to deliver and respond to that need.
Michael, could you name several, maybe more than several of your graduates that are now actually changing Ukraine? They're on headlines.
Well, for headlines, I think your viewers will know Mr. Anton Gerashenko. He was one of the early alumni of one of our young political leadership schools. We ran and still run a series of schools for people that are interested in politics, that want to learn more about what is a political party, what is the role of political party members, what are the roles of elected officials in city government. And these schools were usually multi-stage schools, so 2-day sessions over many weeks and months. And Mr. Gerashenko was an early graduate of such a school. I think actually back in Kharkiv when we had a school in Kharkiv. Yaroslav Markevich, first-term elected member of parliament, also a graduate of this school. Alexander Kadola from Barkivshina, previously was, I believe, deputy governor in Chernigiv, was also a participant of that program and also working on our public hearings program, which is a project designed to educate local communities and civil society organizations about the role of a public hearing and how to use the public hearing mechanism to compel your mayor or elected officials to listen to your demands for a specific issue and achieve an actionable result. So those are some individuals that graduated from some of those programs. In terms of other officials, people out there, again, we've trained thousands of individuals that have gone through our programs. And it's a big challenge actually to keep track of where are they now. Going back and looking at all of these alumni of our different projects and seeing, where are they now? What are they doing? Are they involved in politics? How are they using the information? How is it interesting for them? Was it helpful for them? And the responses that we're getting are, yes, it was very interesting, very helpful. And we have individuals that are now in dozens of political parties, on hundreds of city councils across Ukraine.
Across Ukraine, you mentioned that you worked in all of the parts of our country. Yeah. And since Donbas crisis and also Crimean annexation, did you stop working in those regions, or you tried to continue doing that?
We've tried to continue. IRI for a very long period of time was one of the only organizations working very seriously in Crimea, supporting not just the political parties there, but also the Crimean Tatar community, their structures, their organizations, their NGOs. We worked with a lot of youth organizations in Crimea. We worked with the city of Bakhchisarai for many years, which had a great city council and a very active mayor. So we've tried to continue to work with those actors that unfortunately have had to leave the peninsula. Many of these NGOs have reestablished themselves in other parts of Ukraine, whether it's Kherson, Kyiv, or Lviv. But we continue to work to support those actors in whether that's developing their NGO, whether that's helping to provide them with a greater voice to keep the Crimea issue alive so that we continue to tell our international partners and our international governments that Crimea is a part of Ukraine, and we're working to prepare the next generation of leaders for resuming governing when administrative control returns to Ukraine. With Donetsk and Luhansk, it's been much more of a challenge because of the more fluid situation, especially on the front line. We've done a lot of work in Mariupol lately, but previously it was very difficult to do that because of the security situation. But we're working now today, actually just today, we're in Slavyansk, working with Samopomoch Party and with local organization Civic Control to help implement the ProZorro budgetary and tender process on that city council. So again, it's a very specific region. Logistically, it's a very big challenge, but the IRI feels very strongly about working not just Donetsk, Luhansk, but continuing to work and support our Crimean partners.
And I appreciate that. In the end, I want to ask you, what do you enjoy the most about Ukraine? You mentioned civil society, and you may explain that if you want, but also if you have any other thoughts of what you really love in Ukraine and about Ukraine.
I think that the thing that I love the most about Ukraine is getting outside of Kyiv. It's seeing all the different regions of Ukraine and how different each of them is. Whether you're in Zakarpattia Oblast, or up in northern Rivne, up in the woods, or down in places like Zaporizhzhia, Dnipropetrovsk, a huge variety of not just different regions, different cities, but extremely wealthy country. I mean, the diversity here, the opportunities for these different communities to strengthen themselves through improved governance, making themselves more transparent, making themselves more open and attractive for Ukrainians getting involved in politics, running for mayor, doing very difficult things under very difficult circumstances from a hugely diverse country. And I think that the future looks good. I think that and our partner organizations can bring, the more support foreign donors can give, now is the time. And I'm very optimistic.
All right. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you.
And optimism.